I am a male beta, navigating through life in a grand narrative centered around the intricate dynamics of AO relationships. Each day, I am surrounded by the tender glances and romantic entanglements of alphas and omegas, their connections igniting sparks of passion in any setting, influenced by shared gazes, pheromones, and the ever-persistent sensitivity of their respective periods. Take this moment, for instance. Within the bustling confines of an office, a timid omega rises unsteadily, his face flushed with color as he stumbles toward the omega exclusive restroom. Instinctively, those around him shield their noses, casting furtive glances toward his direction. Halfway there, he suddenly falters, teetering on the edge of collapse, only to be caught at the last moment by a nearby alpha, whose ears betray a hint of crimson, as he visibly struggles against some unseen urge. "Shall I escort you to the hospital?" The alpha offers, and with his support, the omega departs the office, leaving the rest of us unfazed, as if such occurrences were mere trifles. Yet, I am left with an unmistakable pang of envy. Initially, I mirrored the indifference of my colleagues, but as time passed, an insatiable desire began to stir within me. The notion of spending a blissful evening with a dashing alpha became a recurrent thought. Alas, I am but a beta bound to the monotony of work during the sensitive periods of alphas, and toiling away during their newlywed bliss. I am a beta, a lifelong singleton, yearning to inject some excitement into the otherwise mundane lives of alphas and omegas. I too wish for an alpha boyfriend. No, even an alpha bedmate would suffice. Regrettably, I sighed. In the context of this grand narrative, pheromones are of paramount importance. The interactions between alphas and omegas are predominantly dictated by these alluring scents, rendering a beta like myself lacking in pheromones and any notable advantages, entirely incapable of partaking in such captivating plots. As I observe my frazzled beta colleagues, my heartache eases slightly. I had resigned myself to a life of solitude. Yet, one fateful day, the tides of my existence shifted unexpectedly. I discovered an alpha one who was, fortuitously, in the throes of his sensitivity period. In the narrow alley, breath came in ragged gasps, a fine sheen of perspiration glistening upon his brow. He leaned against the wall, stumbling forward. Just as he neared the end of the passage, his form swayed unexpectedly, collapsing against the wall and sinking to the ground. A muffled groan escaped his lips, tinged with a sense of oppression and unbearable discomfort, causing my ears to flush with heat. Typically, I would refrain from traversing this secluded path, but having finished work late today, I opted for a shortcut home. Little did I anticipate such an astonishing encounter. Concealed in the shadows, I observed him, my heart racing with trepidation, the distance between us barely 3 meters. Utilizing the dim glow of the streetlight, I peered cautiously. Unadorned by a ring, with no one in pursuit, his exposed skin appeared unblemished and clean, suggesting he bore no infectious maladies. After a preliminary assessment, I summoned my courage and stepped closer by 2 paces. "Hello? Can you hear me?" Furrowing his brow, his garments were already dampened by sweat. The collar of his shirt hung loosely, the rolled-up sleeves revealing subtle contours at the edges, evoking a sense of enticing allure that was hard to ignore, especially for someone like me. When he opened his eyes, his gaze followed the source of my voice. "What?" he replied, his tone low and unmistakably tinged with irritation. "Do you have a boyfriend?" His eyes met mine, brimming with impatience. "Are you out of your mind?" His disheveled appearance painted him as a forsaken wanderer, unwanted by anyone. Excellent. I rubbed my hands together, exhilaration bubbling within me. Although I yearned to whisk this man away and indulge in my desires, reason dictated that I first seek his consent. I know this may seem presumptuous, but I wish to share the sensitive period with you. I am in good health, without any contagious diseases, merely a diligent office worker. Would you consider it? This was precisely the scenario Fangju despised most. Since his transformation, he had been besieged daily by various distractions. They were akin to the minor foes in a video game, endlessly spawning, relentless in their pursuit. No matter where he sought refuge, a new wave would soon emerge. Over the years, whether it was pheromones or similar enticements, the approach of anyone harboring ulterior motives filled Fangju with profound disdain. Consequently, he had remained single for years, choosing not to alleviate his discomfort through companionship. Yet, today's circumstances were markedly different. Prolonged restraint had left Fangju's glands aching as if sliced by a knife, and suppressants had ceased to be effective. If this continued, irreversible damage could ensue. His mind was clouded, desperate to release the pent-up pheromones of years past. Fangju's gaze settled on the individual before him. He seemed a better option than those who smeared themselves with sickly sweet pheromones. Moreover, he exhibited a degree of politeness, refraining from lunging at Fangju. He was also rather pleasing to the eye. I felt a surge of anxiety under his scrutiny, my lips instinctively pressing together. He regarded me, struggling to articulate, "What do you want?" Fong Ju harbored doubts about this individual's lack of ulterior motives. What did he mean by want? My mind momentarily blanked before clarity struck. "Rest assured, I'm not after your money or anything of the sort. I am incapable of bearing children. I simply wish to experience what it feels like to be with someone." After a prolonged silence, he finally nodded. I beamed, lifting the man from the ground. With a flick of my wrist, I dashed homeward. The fragrance of shampoo wafted through the air as the tips of my hair trembled. Fong Ju could not resist leaning in to inhale the scent. It was subtle, laced with an essence uniquely his. For reasons unknown, Fong Ju found it delightful. I remained oblivious to his small gesture, instead savoring the sensations I had longed for. The contours, the weight, the solidity. Elation danced in my heart, quickening my pace. Upon entering my home, Fong Ju enveloped me in his arms. His breath came in ragged bursts as he buried his face into the crook of my neck, simultaneously tugging at my clothing with an anxious fervor. I halted him. "Wait a moment." He cast an impatient glance my way, his jaw clenched, the veins in his neck throbbing, clearly running low on patience. "What are you doing? Didn't you say you wanted to share this sensitive period with me?" Fong Ju leaned in closer, our proximity almost inviting a kiss. I blinked, voicing my concerns. "Well, what?" Fong Ju interrupted, his voice low and urgent. "Speak quickly. The alley where you fell is unclean. It often serves as a place for people and animals to relieve themselves. Occasionally, garbage accumulates there, making it quite filthy. Moreover, you've been sweating, and after that fall your body is, you understand, right?" After our shower, we hastened to the bed. Fong Ju's movements were fervent, quickly progressing to the main event. Stars danced before my eyes, a wave of pain rendering me immobile. Yet soon, an unfamiliar sensation enveloped my every thought. That night, I finally grasped the true meaning of indulgence. To accommodate Fong Ju's sensitive period, I took an unprecedented 2 days off work. During those days, we dined together, accompanied each other to the restroom, and even slept entwined in each other's embrace. It wasn't until the 3rd day that Fong Ju's pace finally slowed. On the day I returned to work, I awoke to find him still sleeping. I stole glances at him, taking in his chiseled features, firm muscles, and undeniable vigor. Satisfied, I playfully patted Fong Ju's backside. He furrowed his brow, remaining blissfully unaware. I tiptoed out of bed to freshen up in the bathroom. Afterward, I extracted all the cash from my wallet. He didn't appear to be someone who sold himself. However, since I had initiated this encounter, and he had expended so much energy, I felt morally compelled to offer something in return. 10 bills were tucked beneath Fong Ju's clothing. After some thought, I left a note for him as well. Having completed these tasks, I donned my clothes and departed with a full garbage bag in hand. Upon my exit, Fong Ju slowly opened his eyes. He groggily propped himself up, surveying his surroundings. Memories of the last few days gradually crystallized. He had indeed spent time with a stranger. Frustration washed over him as he grasped his hair. Had he known, he would have chosen to remain at the hospital. The thought of having agreed so impulsively weighed heavily on his mind. Could he have been sent by his parents, or was he like the others, harboring ulterior motives? The more he pondered, the greater his headache worsened. He reached for his clothing, intending to dress. As he grabbed his jacket, several bright red bills scattered to the floor, one accompanied by a note filled with small handwriting. He picked up the note, which read, "I had a wonderful time these past few days. Thank you for your efforts. This isn't much, but use it to treat yourself to something nice. Even though you shouldn't neglect your health. The room doesn't need to be tidied. You can leave as is. If possible, we can continue our arrangement next time." He departed, leaving behind the cash and a watch of uncertain make. I fiddled with it for a moment before tossing it into a drawer. The room, once filled with passion, now felt desolate, echoing with my solitude. I mused that the space still retained remnants of his pheromones. Regrettably, I was unable to perceive them. Shaking my head, I resolved to regard the past few days as an exhilarating interlude in my life. A few days later, I once again opted for the shortcut home due to working late. In the familiar alley, I spotted the familiar figure once more collapsed in the same spot, gasping for breath. This time, I adeptly lifted him and carried him home. His condition didn't seem as dire as before. I glanced down, but the reaction remained intense. Upon entering, he brusquely shoved me aside, maintaining a wary distance. Fong Ju was on the verge of exploding with fury. He had merely dined with his parents during the day, only to fall victim to their machinations. The two of them had arranged for someone they deemed suitable to be hidden in a room, intent on consummating their plans without his consent. Fortunately, his mind was still relatively clear, and he managed to escape by climbing out of the second-floor window of the villa. In his haste, he had forgotten his phone and was left to dash towards the hospital. Unexpectedly, he encountered this situation along the way. Fong Ju struggled to prop himself up, his expression fierce, resembling a bristling dog. "What exactly do you intend to do?" I blinked, perplexed by Fong Ju's meaning. "What do you mean by do?" Clarified, "I merely saw you collapse there, so I brought you back." Fong Ju remained silent, running his fingers through his short hair while muttering curses under his breath. I prudently stepped aside, granting him the solitude necessary for contemplation. He was agitated, his breathing rapid, demonstrating signs of excitement. Observing his state, I found myself puzzled. The sensitive period should not occur so frequently. Should it? "Would you care to make a deal?" I ventured to speak to Fong Ju. He became vigilant. "What sort of deal?" I replied candidly, "Physical intimacy. I am someone who rarely encounters such opportunities outside of work. However, I have long desired to engage in some mutual understanding of physicality." I paused for effect. "Last time, our experience seemed rather enjoyable for both of us. You see, your pheromones require release and I happen to have similar needs. It would be a mutually beneficial arrangement. If you require it, I can also provide you with shelter and meals, and I won't impede you should you wish to terminate the arrangement. Oh, rest assured, I am single and have no emotional entanglements." Fong Ju scrutinized me. "Is there nothing else you desire?" I surveyed him closely. He appeared disheveled, coated in dust and grime, with even his clothing bearing the marks of neglect. What could I possibly want from him? I shook my head. "Nothing." Fong Ju finally grasped the situation. "You don't recognize me?" I replied. "Do you only engage in transactions with acquaintances?" After weighing the pros and cons, Fong Ju acquiesced. On one hand, he was reluctant to deal with his parents and their schemes any longer. On the other hand, given his current physical condition, he indeed required assistance to alleviate the buildup of pheromones. This stranger, whom he did not recognize, posed no threat of entanglement upon departure, and he could simply leave a token of gratitude. More importantly, he did not emanate that nauseating pheromone that could induce a headache. Fong Ju staggered and collapsed onto the bed. Hearing the sound of running water from the bathroom, he could no longer contain himself. Upon exiting the bathroom, I beheld him sprawled on the bed. With broad shoulders and a slender waist, even the slightest movement seemed worthy of a magazine cover. He lay with his back to me, his arms moving swiftly. I caught a whiff of an unfamiliar scent in the air, reminiscent of what I had encountered over the past few days. Faced with such a scene for the first time, I felt an overwhelming sense of nervousness, my throat tightening. I tiptoed closer, eager to absorb the rare sight before me. Fong Ju was inherently alluring, and now, with an added hint of seduction, he was utterly captivating. He remained oblivious to my presence, while I found myself salivating, unable to hold back. "Actually, I'm quite willing to assist," I ventured. Fong Ju's face, initially slightly flushed, turned crimson after our recent encounter, his ears glowing with embarrassment. I awkwardly cleared my throat twice. Fong Ju turned his head, his gaze heavy. The scene before me swayed, and before I could react, Fong Ju pulled me beneath him. He did not act immediately but instead leaned on his arms, surveying me from head to toe. "Are you certain?" Fong Ju's voice was hoarse, seeking confirmation. How could he still be engaging in small talk when he was in such a state? Fong Ju must have been inexperienced. Just before losing consciousness, I couldn't resist giving a thumbs up to the one still laboring earnestly, offering a heartfelt compliment. Impressive. I temporarily provided Fong Ju shelter. With only one bedroom available, I set up a makeshift bed beside his, ensuring we could engage in conflict at any moment. Having such a captivating presence nearby made my nightly slumber all the more delightful. The only downside was that Fong Ju rarely acknowledged me. Each day, he either performed push-ups and sit-ups in his room or sat before the television watching financial news, occasionally cooking meals when boredom struck. At that moment, Fong Ju rose from bed and settled on the sofa to watch television. Observing his chiseled abs ignited a desire within me, and before departing, I couldn't resist whistling at him. Fong Ju glanced my way but chose to ignore me. He remained unaware that this indulgence had fully unleashed my true nature. While Fong Ju was distracted, I extended a mischievous hand to tease him. I pressed my face against the glass door while he showered, resembling a voyeur. I obstructed his view while he watched financial news, posing provocatively. During work hours, I sent flirtatious messages to the spare phone I had prepared for him. Initially, Fang Ju could hardly tolerate my antics and only responded with verbal jabs. Have you always been this neurotic? I shook my head. I used to be quite serious. You have brought this side out of me. After saying this, I turned to him. Do you feel honored? Fang Ju rubbed his temples. Don't talk to me. Eventually, Fang Ju could no longer withstand my behavior and tossed me onto the bed. He held me down until I could barely breathe, my body limp, too exhausted to even lift a finger before he finally released me. If you wish to avoid such exhaustion next time, refrain from being so bothersome, he commented while getting dressed. How many times must I repeat myself before you learn? In the hidden corners where Fang Ju could not see, I quietly smirked, feeling a blend of madness and satisfaction. The foolish man was so easily deceived. I was invigorated by Fang Ju's attention, feeling so energized that even work no longer felt burdensome. Whenever I thought of my robust and valiant companion at home, I couldn't help but chuckle, even sneaking a glance at shopping websites to explore items that could enhance our intimacy. A colleague leaned over. Rentang, what's gotten into you? Why do you look so delighted? Have you fallen in love? My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly closed the webpage. No, I fibbed. I recently adopted a dog. My colleague's eyes lit up. Wow, what breed? What's its name? Do you have pictures? I moved my lips. I'm not sure about the breed. It's quite large, but I don't have any photos. Large dogs are wonderful. They provide a great sense of security. However, large breeds are usually very energetic and can easily cause trouble. You should take it out for walks often or buy some toys to keep it occupied. Trouble? Fang Ju's calm face flashed in my mind. No, Fang Ju was not a dog. Realizing I had veered off course, I swiftly dismissed that thought. Nevertheless, providing toys to occupy his time was indeed necessary. Fang Ju spent so much time at home, showing little interest in anything outside of our moments together. What if he became ill from boredom? That evening after work, I decided to buy Fang Ju the most high-end gaming laptop available. No man could resist the allure of gaming, except for Fang Ju. He merely glanced at it before his gaze returned to the television. I was astounded. You don't like it? Fang Ju shook his head. It's boring. He had once been addicted to games during his student days, isolating himself in his room from dawn till dusk. Later, perhaps having indulged too much, he suddenly lost interest in those games. They don't look cheap, you should return them. I held the brand new computer, utterly perplexed. If he wasn't interested in this, then what could possibly capture his attention? What are you interested in? Fang Ju fell silent for a considerable time. He cast his gaze downward, his eyes briefly lingering on his perfectly proportioned, fair calves. Nothing. Nothing at all? I pondered for a while and purchased some abstract toys online. Fang Ju regarded those grotesque forms with a face full of disdain. What on earth is this? I pushed the items toward him. Can you play with them? Fang Ju scoffed. What's there to not know how to play? He grasped the twisted and bizarre toy but struggled to comprehend how to engage with it. I took it back. Let me show you. I pressed down on the recess of the toy's base, and it let out a shrill, distorted scream. And this, I unveiled a gracefully shaped flower toy. Upon switching it on, the flower immediately swayed to life, the microphone broadcasting a pre-recorded message from me. Fang Ju, come enjoy life. After all, there's plenty of time. Fang Ju's expression darkened as he took it and recorded a curt "get lost into it." He fiddled with the toys for a while before losing interest. Is that all? I produced a board game box, a 2-player horror script murder mystery. Have you played it before? Fang Ju shook his head honestly. No worries. I opened the box and spilled out the props. Let me explain it to you. Fang Ju listened intently, unconsciously leaning closer to me. Once I finished explaining, a hint of seriousness and admiration flickered in his previously calm gaze. He sat opposite me. Sounds interesting. Shall we play a round? I nodded. Let us. We played until midnight. During the game, I attempted several times to suggest subsequent activities. Fang Ju noticed my intentions but was not yet ready to stop playing. Eventually, he could no longer tolerate my teasing, sweeping me into his embrace. After a brief rustle, I let out a soft sigh. Fang Ju was not entirely unbothered either, his brow furrowing in discomfort. Relax. I was getting into the groove when, just as I intended to turn around, Fang Ju suddenly grasped my chin and pulled my face toward him. Just like this, let us continue playing. I gasped. No way. Why not? Fang Ju was displeased. Because if you do that, you'll see all my script. Fang Ju was taller than me, and in this position, if he simply leaned down, he could catch a glimpse of everything on my script. The air fell silent. I spoke again. If you see it, it won't be fun anymore. What if we take a break now and continue tomorrow? It's getting late. Fang Ju finally made a move, turning my body to press me against him. His warmth enveloped me, and this was the first time I had been so intimately close to Fangju. His deep, slightly husky voice whispered in my ear, "Like this, I won't be able to see it." Fangju developed a keen interest in such deductive role-playing games. Subsequently, I purchased several more sets for him. Each time, he would play until the early hours, his demeanor much brighter than before, occasionally even sharing a joke with me. In the morning, while Fangju was still asleep, a stack of games lay beside him. I awoke groggily, stretching my foot and nearly stepping on him as he lay on the floor. I sidestepped him, yawning as I made my way to the kitchen, contemplating what other games I might acquire to play with Fangju. When Fangju awoke, the room was already empty. He climbed up, reaching out to feel the bed. It was cold. Evidently, I had been gone for quite some time. Fangju tidied up the floor and surveyed the small yet tidy room, which was infused with his unique scent. When he first arrived, Fangju had felt somewhat constrained, and even the bedding I prepared for him had been uncomfortable. Perhaps having grown accustomed to it, he now found it quite cozy, his entire being relaxing. After a brief cleanup, he ventured into the kitchen, intending to brew himself a cup of coffee. A note was affixed to the coffee machine. "I've prepared lunch. It's in the fridge. Remember to heat it up when you eat." A tingling sensation spread through his heart. Fangju's fingers trembled slightly. He feigned calmness, his gaze brushing over the note as he picked up a cup. But within minutes, he turned back and removed the note from the coffee machine. He read it repeatedly, ultimately succumbing to the urge to cover his face, still clutching that note. After a struggle with his thoughts, Fangju could no longer deny his feelings. He genuinely liked this, even finding the usual annoying habits of that person endearing. To his surprise, the first time he contemplated romance was under these circumstances. Fangju reflected and concluded that it was likely due to the person involved. That individual was simple, genuinely kind, and it felt effortless to be around them. Fangju stood lost in thought for a while before opening the refrigerator to see what I had prepared for him. Upon opening the door, he found a variety of hearty dishes meticulously arranged on the shelves. Scrambled eggs with chives, ginseng and deer antler soup, roasted kidneys, and stir-fried lamb with scallions. All were nourishing dishes. Recently, Fangju had been acting rather strangely. Not only had he not succumbed to the allure of the murder mystery scripts, but he also frequently asked me odd questions. "Can you tell me what you do for work? Where's your company? Can I pick you up after work? When is your birthday?" I was puzzled by Fangju's inquiries and selectively answered a few. "Don't worry about picking me up. Just rest at home." Fangju fell silent, contemplating for a while. "How about we go for a walk together in the evening?" I declined again. "Well, forget it. I prefer to lounge at home. If you want to go out, you can do so on your own. I left you the keys, didn't I? Moreover, walking in the evening would cut into our precious time for nighttime activities. I couldn't bear to squander such valuable moments." Fangju ceased to engage with me, sitting in silence, seemingly at a loss. That evening, his movements were particularly slow, almost as if he were deliberately dragging things out. I was on the verge of losing my mind, squirming beneath him, trying to escape. Yet, after much effort, I found myself unable to move. Finally, I could no longer hold back and spoke to Fangju. "You!" Fangju's eyes lit up. "If you're too tired, should we take a break today?" The next moment, I nearly toppled to the ground. I felt a strange sensation, but I dismissed it, closing my eyes to enjoy the moment. In the following days, I sensed that Fangju's mood had soured. He appeared lethargic, speaking less, and even his enthusiasm for exercise waned. Watching Fangju languishing in bed, I grew increasingly concerned and lifted the covers to check on him. His complexion was poor, and after my intervention, it darkened further. "Don't touch me. I'm not in the mood today." Relieved, I sighed inwardly. I had feared there might be an issue with him. With my worries assuaged, I turned and climbed back into bed. Midway through, Fangju suddenly grasped my lower leg. His rough palm sent ripples of warmth through me. "Reitentang." Fangju looked at me, an unusual seriousness in his eyes. I instinctively responded. "We've known each other for quite some time," he paused, his ears flushing slightly. "Have you considered taking things further?" What did he mean? I furrowed my brow. "We have not met many times, have we?" Fangju froze. "That's not what I meant. What I mean is, I wish to deepen our emotional connection." The air fell silent, and I realized my mouth was quicker than my mind. "Perhaps it's better to forget it." Fangju pressed his lips tightly together. "Why?" I scratched my head, unsure how to respond. "It's just that I don't really want to." I was devoid of pheromones, unable to attract Fangju, nor could I be marked. I feared that after a short while together, he would be drawn to the pheromones of others. In that case, I would be left alone to suffer the anguish of a unique heartbreak. It seemed unwise. It was far better to maintain a purely physical relationship, enjoying life without emotional entanglements. Moreover, if I were to truly seek a romantic partner, I would prefer someone with a stable job like mine. So, you simply need someone to satisfy your desires. I was at a loss for words, pondering for what felt like an eternity without uttering a sound. Fangju gazed at me, silent. Suddenly, he stood up, took his coat, and walked toward the door. With a loud clang, the room fell silent, leaving me alone on the bed. My nose wrinkled as I savored the deepening sorrow within. Before I could dwell in my sadness for long, there came a knock-knock at the door. I slipped on my slippers and opened it. It was Fangju. He had returned. Fangju glared at me, his fists clenched. Seeing him in such a threatening posture, I instinctively sought a means of defense. Fortunately, Fangju did nothing. Did you often seek such arrangements before? No. I shook my head. This is the first time. Such fortunate encounters were rare. Fangju's expression softened a little. His lips moved, as if he were about to speak but hesitated. After a while, he mustered the courage to utter, "I am cleaner than those dubious characters, in great shape, and I can cook. Whenever you desire, I can fulfill your needs. Don't seek anyone else." After that day, Fangju became more fervent. As soon as we arrived home, he swept me into his arms, keeping me off the ground all night. He even dug out the toys and uniforms he had previously declined to use with me. Upon entering, I found him seated in a chair, clad in minimal fabric, his hands tightly bound. Beside him lay an array of items neatly arranged on the table. Fangju looked up and beckoned. "Come here." My breath hitched, and I nearly lost control of my senses. I stepped forward and reached out. Fangju let out a muffled sound. I felt my waist go weak. Actually, Fangju lifted his gaze, his chest rising and falling erratically, every detail reflecting his profound desire. "What?" He licked his lips, his tone urgent. "This was what I intended to wear." Fangju swallowed hard. "It seems you prefer watching me wear it rather than donning it yourself?" Those he glanced away. "Won't you give it a try?" I swallowed, trembling as I picked up an item from the table and pulled it toward Fangju. I pulled with a bit too much force, causing him pain, and his fists clenched behind his back. I hesitated, unsure whether to continue. Suddenly, Fangju looked up and asked, "Rentang, do you like it?" I nodded honestly. "I do." "Then would you reconsider dating me?" Fangju smirked, teasingly. "If we were to date, I could wear various things for you every day. You can treat me however you wish." Fangju lowered his voice. "Just as you desire." I quickly weighed the pros and cons in my mind. Ultimately, I set the item down. Perhaps it's better to forget it. Fangju, determined to impress, worked tirelessly day and night, seizing opportunities to hold me close. No matter how enticing it was, over time, I found it increasingly difficult to cope. My days were filled with work, and my nights with labor, leaving my back suffering under the strain. For the first time, I declined Fangju's advances. "Let's skip tonight." I struggled to crawl forward. "I'm a bit tired." Fangju's expression darkened instantly. "Is someone else involved?" I hurried to explain. "What are you saying?"
I'm genuinely tired.
"And you're swollen." Fangju seemed to have a moment of conscience and did not press further. Just as I felt a sigh of relief, a wave of heat washed over me. Turning my head, I saw Fangju bowing his head. I was startled, my hair standing on end. "What are you doing? Get up." Fangju did not lift his gaze, mumbling, "I'm helping you reduce the swelling." My face flushed crimson, feeling as if I had been steam-cooked. Who would be so kind as to reduce swelling like this? The next day, I stumbled into the office in a daze. My colleagues were startled upon seeing me. "What happened? Have you been soul-sucked?" "Close enough." I slumped at my desk, exhaling deeply. My colleague didn't pry further, instead opening his phone to share his romantic exploits. "Is my boyfriend handsome?" In the photo, he was nestled against a man, the two of them embracing and smiling at each other, the image radiating the scent of love. I scrutinized. "No, it's also." My colleague raised a hand, pointing behind him. "But the one who went on a business trip with me last time just got a boyfriend. Wow, what luck." "I think you, Rentang, should find someone too. Being single like this isn't ideal. Why don't you share your criteria for a partner? I can see if I know anyone suitable." An inexplicable feeling of scrutiny fell upon me. I quickly turned around. The office was quiet, only the sound of keyboards clattering as everyone busied themselves, no one glancing our way. My colleague nudged me. "Rentang?" I snapped back to reality. "Criteria for a partner, huh? Someone with a stable job like mine. Normal values, no serious illnesses, not too handsome, just decent looking will do. It would be perfect if we shared some common interests. If they happened to be that would be even better. A is fine too. As someone without pheromones and no particular strengths, I lack the allure. Can you be a bit more confident in yourself? My colleague squinted. Let me keep an eye out for you, though it might be challenging. My colleague's voice was interrupted by the vibration of his phone. He glanced at it, a smile immediately spreading across his face. Wait a moment, my boyfriend is calling. I'll step outside to take it. My thoughts became a tangled mess. With Fong Jue's face floated into my mind. The sense of scrutiny returned. I swiftly turned around, seeking the source of that gaze. Everyone was engrossed in their tasks, except for a colleague behind me who was startled when my chair bumped into him. What happened? Sorry. I scanned the surroundings, finding nothing amiss. That feeling of being watched seemed to vanish the moment I turned around. Surely no superior had caught me slacking off? I rubbed the back of my head and turned back. As the day drew to a close, the sky outside grew dark, and a light rain began to fall. Soon, the drizzle intensified, pattering against the glass. I gazed out into the downpour, troubled. I hadn't brought an umbrella, and the subway station was quite a distance from the office. I had no choice but to run, following the crowd toward the exit. Just as I was about to dash into the rain, a hand suddenly reached out, grasping my wrist. Fongju, how did you find me here? I heard you on the phone last time. He averted his gaze and raised the umbrella in his hand, saying, I noticed you didn't bring an umbrella. You didn't get wet, did you? Fongju paused, rubbing his knuckles against the tip of his nose. No. I examined myself and confirmed that I was indeed quite dry, not even a trace of moisture on my shoes. That's good. Let's head home. The two men huddled beneath a single umbrella, inevitably getting a bit wet. Upon entering the house, Fongju swiftly scooped me up and made his way to the bathroom. Wait, I immediately kicked my legs, attempting to free myself from his embrace. I'm not ready yet. I'm not doing anything, he said lightly, giving me a gentle pat. You're wet. Let me help you clean up. True to his word, Fongju refrained from any inappropriate actions. After ensuring I was clean, he knelt in the bathroom to scrub the mud off my shoes. That night, Fongju expressed a desire to sleep beside me. After a moment's hesitation, I acquiesced. Fongju's body radiated warmth, akin to a giant hot water bottle. Pressed against him, my consciousness gradually faded. In a state of half-sleep, I sensed someone encircling my waist, followed by something soft and furry nuzzling against my neck and shoulders. A barely audible voice whispered in my ear, "What's wrong? In my eyes, whether you are this or that, you are the best." The following day, I rose energetically from bed. The deep slumber of the night before led me to contemplate whether I should allow Fongju to sleep in my bed more often. Rentang, Fongju suddenly called my name. I turned in response, only to find him standing at the door, dressed neatly, with a small amount of luggage in hand, those absurd toys I had bought for him. I'm going back. Where to? Home. I was momentarily taken aback. You have a home? Fongju looked at me, seemingly wanting to say something but only sighed in the end. As I watched his hand reach for the door lock, I fully came to my senses. Wait. The words of retention caught in my throat. Fongju and I were merely engaged in a transient transaction. Initially, I had promised him that if he wished to leave, I would not intervene. Stammering, I managed to utter, "If you have nowhere to go next time, come here. I've always saved a spot for you on the floor. Shall I take you to the hospital?" he asked. With that, Fongju vanished at the door. As his footsteps receded, silence reclaimed the room. Typically, such dialogues in a film signal the end of encounters. I sniffled and buried myself under the blanket. It wasn't until the alarm clock's ringing grew increasingly loud that I finally rose, my eyes red and weary, dragging my bag to work. I had initially thought Fongju's words were mere consolation. However, I soon found myself face to face with him once more, a mere hour after our parting that morning. I glanced at Fongju, who was seated in the boss's chair, and then at the assortment of absurd toys on his desk, before stepping back to scrutinize the nameplate at the door. Clad in formal attire, Fongju's physique was accentuated by the fabric, exuding an air of both restraint and allure. He observed my movements, suppressing a smile. "Weren't you looking for a boyfriend with a stable job? Is my current position stable enough? Can it qualify for your boyfriend criteria?" I had no time to respond to Fongju's inquiries. I locked the office door and drew the blinds completely shut. After completing these tasks, I approached Fongju and boldly straddled him. He inhaled sharply, his gaze following the motion of my fingers unbuttoning my shirt. "We can discuss this later," I said. "Right now, there's something far more pressing that requires your cooperation." Fongju's Adam's apple bobbed as he grasped my ankle. It is indeed quite important. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing and liking to support. Until we meet again in the next story.